Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briargreaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, Briargreaves Insurance are the best in the business to talk to. Visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166 for more information. That's 813-876-4166. Hope everybody had a great weekend as we kick off a new week and we get a little bit closer to the draft, but we're going to spend our attention on the current team. We'll find out what happens, who gets added to this team. But we want to know, on Baker Mayfield's 30th birthday, and happy birthday, Baker Mayfield, how long is the Bucs Super Bowl window open for? We're going to have an open conversation about it. Feel free to join us in the comments, the chats, and super chats as well. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is Scott Reynolds, PewterReport.com. Scott, how are we doing?
Doing good, Matt. This is an interesting topic, right? Because we're both in agreement that the Bucs Super Bowl window is now open. We didn't necessarily think that was the case last year, although they had a chance, of course, because they made the playoffs. I mean, heck, this team's made the playoffs 5 years in a row. When you're in the playoffs, you have a chance. But realistically speaking, this seems like this is the team now with guys like Kalijah Kancey and Yaya Diaby and Cody Mauch all getting another year's worth of experience, developing, getting better as pros. And then you've got last year's stellar rookie class. They'll be hopefully better this year as well. Tyke Smith, Jalen McMillan, Graham Barton, Bucky Irving. And we'll see who else continues to develop on this roster from a depth standpoint. And a couple of guys are entering contract years, right? Zion McCollum, Luke Gedeke, Kate Otten. So there's kind of a lot on the line personally, as well as from a team standpoint. Mike Evans also one of those guys in the contract year. But yeah, so how long is the window open? I did a little bit of research, and the answer might shock you a little bit. We'll kind of get into that a little bit later on the show. But we did have some news over the weekend and also today as the Buccaneers are preparing for the draft. We've got some top 30 visits, some official 30 visits to go over with y'all. And let's go to the list here. The new names, that guy right there, Darius Alexander, is a player that the Senior Bowl watching staff at Pewter Report, we were all there in Mobile checking out the Senior Bowl prospects. The Bucs seem to like the Senior Bowl prospects. They draft a lot of Senior Bowl players. And Darius Alexander is one of those players that really caught our attention, really stood out, especially on the last day, man. He was all over the place. Very high energy, high motor guy, just disruptive, was unblockable at times. Really up to his stock, probably a day 2 selection now, second, third round pick. But he is a player that this team is looking to get some defensive line depth. Remember, Logan Hall's in a contract year, so they might be trying to draft his replacement if he blows up and has another good season, or maybe he doesn't have a great season and they are looking just for an upgrade. So Darius Alexander is one of those new players. He is one of 3 defensive tackles, along with Shamar Turner and Omar Norman-Lott, both of those players. Shamar Turner wasn't at the Senior Bowl, but Omar Norman-Lott was. He had a good week. Yep. Then the other players, Jalen Smith out of USC. We just hit that story on PewterReport.com. You can check that out. He is the latest visitor to come to One Buccaneer Place that we know of, as well as safety J.J. Roberts. And as we've told you before, Pewter people, and Matt, you can chime in on this. Sometimes these official 30 visits, they're not for the first or the second round guys. They're for the late round, day 3 possible guys. And I think that's where Marshall safety J.J. Roberts comes into play. I think that's where Jalen Smith, cornerback out of USC, whom the Bucs had a formal interview with at the Combine, that comes into play as well.
Yeah, we know how the Bucs have really taken advantage of about finding value in players that went undrafted. Christian Izien is the perfect and prime example right now, who started at nickel 2 years ago, has proven to be a solid depth player. So the big reason why you bring some of these guys in for top 30 visits, sure, if they're a first round or second round pick, you want to get to know them a little bit more, how they may fit in that offense specifically. But when the draft is done, and yes, you all want to draft as many players as possible. That's why trades happen, all those different things. You fall in love with certain players. But there are some players that slip through the cracks and end up becoming undrafted free agents. So it's a little bit of a recruiting trip. It's a lot of hey, we have our eye on you, and we would like to bring you into Tampa Bay in the event that you don't get drafted. And these are big decisions for these undrafted free agent players. Well, I mean, if you're a cornerback, the Bucs are a pretty solid team to go to, considering, and you obviously got to learn the history and learn what this team is doing at the time, but knowing the injury history of Jamel Dean, the fact that Zion McCollum's on the last year of his deal, the fact that they signed two other corners on 1-year deals. I mean, if you're a cornerback and an undrafted free agent, not the worst place to go to with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, on the flip side, if if you're a running back on this team and you see Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker and Rashad White's in the last year of his deal,
Right.
may not want to go to the Buccaneers.
That's right.
He needs a little more help running back, like Dallas, for example, where you have a better opportunity to go and play. So it's a little bit of maneuvering and setting yourself up for after the draft, but that's why you get 30 of these visits, right?
Yeah, for sure. And the Buccaneers have done a good job of selecting some of these players, right, that come in for these 30 visits. Now, we should remind everybody, just because the team meets with the player formally, even at the combine, or has a player in for a 30 visit. We've talked to General Manager Jason Light. There have been plenty of guys that that bomb their visits or those interviews, and they kind of get knocked down the Bucs board or sometimes taken off the Bucs board. So just because there is interest in these players doesn't mean that the interest is always positive. Sometimes, based on that interview, it turns out to be negative, and it can work against the player when it comes to that. But we can only go by what we know, and at least the Bucs are showing some interest in these players. Of course, we would be remiss if we wouldn't bring up Kalijah Cansey's name back in 2023.
Yep.
Bucs didn't have him in for a visit at all. Didn't even interview him at the combine, and they spent the first round draft pick on him at number 19. So we have to say that as well, because sometimes the Buccaneers, they can trick you and use some smoke and some smoke screening, and that's kind of what happened in 2023.
And that's why it's so interesting when we have this press conference with Jason Light, like we did on Thursday, and every team has to do it, because it's a little bit of a song and dance between Jason and the media, because he doesn't want to reveal anything, but he also doesn't want to say nothing. And then if you do say something, is it truthful, or are you trying to get the word out there that the Bucs are going in this direction when they really want to go in this direction?
Yeah.
So that's why I thought it was interesting what he had to say about not seeing as many trades, at least early on, considering the talent this year. It seems like, there's going to be great talent every single year just across the entire landscape, but it doesn't feel as star-studded as maybe the past couple of years. And maybe that's because the quarterback position specifically, with not as many big names as there were a year ago.
Yeah.
But that now it really comes down to who can cut their teeth, kind of looking through the tea leaves and seeing where they can really boost their team. I'm talking about every single NFL team, not even the Buccaneers specifically, because we've seen the Bucs be fantastic with middle picks to even day 3 picks. I don't know if every organization can necessarily do that, but I do trust that Jason Light can.
Yeah, and let's go back to that list here of the official 30 visits, and if you take a look at this, the name that really kind of jumps out to me is JJ Roberts from Marshall. Now, again, we've got, I believe, 17 names out of the 30, so there's 13 that we have yet to identify that we don't know about. But if you look at that list, see all those cornerbacks?
It's a lot.
There's one safety, right? That tells me that Tyke Smith is moving to strong safety right now, unless 13 of those names that we don't know, maybe 5 or 6 of them are safeties. That could be. So let's put that out there too. But it looks to me, and you look at Savon Revel from East Carolina. Revel is an outside corner. Trey Amos is an outside corner. Noah Williams could be an outside corner, could be a nickel. Jacob Parrish, probably a nickel. Nico Reed is a nickel, and so is Jalen Smith. So there's some nickel backs there. And these guys are probably, especially Reed and Smith, they're day 3 selections. Parrish might sneak into the 3rd round. He might be a day 2 guy. I think Williams either 3rd or 4th round. Revel and Amos probably 2nd rounds, although maybe Revel sneaks into the bottom of the 1st. We'll see. But it just seems to me that they're looking at nickel backs to compete with Christian Izien for when Tyke Smith moves to strong safety. At least that's how I read the tea leaves. And if they draft someone like Malachi Starks in the first round, then maybe Tyke Smith stays at nickel and Malachi Starks ends up being that Jordan Whitehead replacement.
Right, but that ends up being a good solution for the Buccaneers
Yeah.
if it turns out to becoming that. And I've said on the show before, and you heard me mention Christian Izien because he was an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
I love him as a depth piece.
Yeah.
He's okay as a starter, but like the Bucs can certainly improve there. And as we know with Tampa Bay's defense, even though the slot corner might only be on the field for about 75% of the games, and that's part of the argument with Tyke Smith. It's like, hey, this guy was tied for the team lead in forced fumbles. Let's get him on the field more because he seems to be a playmaker or the next playmaker for this team. And we were kind of robbed of a lot of Tyke Smith and Antoine Winfield Jr. playing together based on the injuries that really happened to both of them. So I'm very excited if Tyke is officially moving to that strong safety spot, having Winfield and Smith right next to each other. But my point being at the beginning is they view nickel as a starter, even though they might not play 100% of the snaps. So you want to make sure you get that right. And based on this year's draft with different options, but not really knowing how the board is going to break, once again, you might as well try to jump on it early and maybe even find a versatile player that kind of go the Tyke Smith route of you start him at nickel, and then who knows what happens in a couple of seasons. Maybe they're your starting corner coming up next. We just don't know. But that's the beauty of finding versatile players and getting the most out of them and going to a coach in Todd Bowles that really enjoys coaching young defensive backs. We've seen it with Winfield, Jamel Dean back in the day, even Carlton Davis, and the list goes on and on and on. Sean Murphy Bunting too. And now this most recent season with Tyke Smith. If there's any place that a young defensive back could go to, it's Todd Bowles and the Bucs.
I totally agree. And we're going to be talking about the safety position exclusively on Wednesday, but tomorrow's show should be a fun one. We're going to be predicting the NFC South first-round draft picks. We're going to be looking at not just who the Bucs might be drafting, but the Falcons, the Saints, and the Panthers as well, because as we all know, you got to get through the NFC South to get to the playoffs, right? This is a division that has been a little top-heavy with the Buccaneers winning the NFC South each of the last 4 seasons, 3 of which under Todd Bowles. And so we'll take a look at the other teams and see if they can maybe find some really good players to make a run at the Buccaneers, or will they continue to draft a little poorly? Looking at you, New Orleans. Your terrible drafts have gotten the Saints into a terrible mess. So that's at 4 o'clock tomorrow here on Pewter Report TV. Then we'll be looking at the safety position, Bucs' upcoming safety dance. That, of course, is a nod to a fantastic 80s one-hit wonder song by Men Without Hats, Safety Dance. If you're old enough to remember that, give us a comment in the chat. But that's Tyke Smith, and he might be on the move. And we'll take a look at the safety position, and then, of course, how that affects the nickel position heading into the draft. That's going to be on Wednesday. We'll have a show on Thursday. We're trying to line up a Buccaneer player for this week, but we'll see what we can come up with after having Yaya Diaby 2 weeks ago and Michael Pratt last week. We got some invites out there, and we'll see who bites. But we do know for sure that next Monday night, we're going to be having our final Bucs mock draft. This is our final show with our final Bucs mock draft that will be coming out Monday, April 21st at 5 p.m. Eastern time, right on pewterreport.com. Josh Capo, myself, working on that final mock feverishly, night and day for you Pewter people. And that will be revealed at 5. Then we'll have a show at 8:30 prime time to talk about it. So make sure you are there and you bring your questions, your reactions to the draft. And we're not tipping off who we're going to go with in this particular draft because we've got a picture of Todd and Jason right there, the brains behind the Bucs draft. And then, speaking of draft, make sure that you are with us all 3 nights of the draft. Well, there's a day show, but we like to call it our primetime broadcast on April 24th and 25th. That'll be our live draft show. It's going to be on Pewter Report TV, streamed on YouTube, Facebook, and X on our Pewter Report accounts, as well as pewterreport.com. And that will be 1 hour prior to the start of the draft every single show. So 7 o'clock kickoff on Thursday, April 24th, a 6 p.m. start on Friday, April 25th, and then we'll go live at 11 a.m. right before the draft starts on noon on that final day on April 26th. So make sure you mark your calendars for that. We'd love to have you join us for our Pewter Report live draft show. We'll have some special guests, plus the Pewter Report staff on hand for every single minute of the Bucs draft. So will be a fun time for all, including the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who have killed the draft lately.
They have, and it's been it's a draft marathon with the Pewter Report live draft show, but it's a lot of fun. We keep it light and informative and a lot of fun. And we react to every pick too, not just the Bucs. That's obviously the main attraction, and we do put all of our efforts into that. But we do look at the draft as well for the rest of the league, see what moves we like, what moves we hate. I mean, of course, last year there was the Michael Penix draft pick by the Falcons, where we laughed at the time, and now, not as bad now considering what happened with Kirk Cousins. So I'm sure we'll have plenty of that as well.
Yep. We started a little bit late because I had to report the story. I just put it in the chat about Pewter Reports identifying the 17th pre-draft visitor, and that's Jalen Smith. So you can check out that story right there. That means we're like a minute late for this thing that we do that makes Monday tolerable for everybody at work, everybody watching the show that is a part of our particular broadcast here on Mondays know that we do this fun event called
Roll Call. That's right. We do it every Monday show when we are at our home offices. And we love interacting with our fans as much as we possibly can because we have awesome fans all across the globe. It truly is great to see where everybody is watching from. So we do this every 420 or around 420. If you want to put in the comments where you are watching the show from, like Tom from Crossville, Tennessee, and we'll put them up on the show and then give a couple of personal shout outs as well after. So Scott, it's up to you. I can go on a rant. You can go on a rant, whatever you like. I'm down with it.
I've got one called in the huddle. So let's go with
all right.
Let's go with a little rant on the birthday boy, Baker Reagan Mayfield. Happy 30th birthday. That's right. Now, Baker Mayfield, this is a special birthday for him because he is joining Club 30. I was once a member a couple decades ago. I'm in Club 50 right now. Matt, you are in Club 30, so you're welcoming Baker with open arms.
Welcome to the club, Baker.
Yeah. And they say that in your 30s, that's kind of like your 20s if you're in really good shape. And Baker's in really good shape because he ran for a lot of yards last year, a career amount of yards, as a matter of fact. But really, he's a quarterback, and what we want to focus on are those 41 passing touchdowns. That is a personal best for Baker Mayfield. And of course, last year that was the second highest mark ever in franchise history. Only Tom Brady has more touchdowns in a single season, and that was in the 2021 season, the best season in Bucs history, regular season, of course. And that is when they went 13-4. So Baker Mayfield, one of my favorite memories, and we're going to have a special Pewter Report roundtable on Baker Mayfield's greatest moments as a Buccaneer. He's only been here 2 years. It feels like he's been here 10 years, doesn't it? Because we want to forget all the quarterbacks that were here before him, right? So during the decade of darkness where there was no playoff trips for Tampa Bay. But this is such a special time for the Buccaneer franchise because they have never had that handoff moments that some teams have gone through, right? You look back at the San Francisco 49ers with Steve Young getting the baton from Joe Montana, right? And you look at Green Bay, holy smokes, for like 3 or 4 decades, they've had 3 quarterbacks. Hall of Famer Brett Favre, to Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers, to playoff quarterback Jordan Love. That's the envy of the league to have that type of handoff. Well, Jason Light gets a lot of credit, not just for his drafts, but for finding that successor to Tom Brady. And boy, was that really hard, right? I mean, you're looking at a legend who came to Tampa Bay in his 40s after 20 seasons with the New England Patriots, a franchise that he paid for. And then you win a Super Bowl in your first season here, Tom, right? And you're already kind of etched in the Bucs Ring of Honor whenever they want to put you in. And you take this team to the playoffs 3 straight years. You win the division in 2021 and 2022. And Baker Mayfield was that handoff quarterback. They've found a veteran quarterback to come in. Lord knows the team cannot draft a quarterback. They just have not. They've spent
One
first
thing
round
they
draft
haven't
picks.
gotten over.
They have not gotten that right, whether you're Rich McKay or Mark Dominic or Bruce Allen or Jason Light, not drafted a quarterback. But they have found what has worked for this franchise all along. That is finding a free agent quarterback. And there have been some really good ones. Brad Johnson helped win a Super Bowl in 2002, and along with the division title. Brian Griese was part of a division title team in 2005. Jeff Garcia was a hired gun, but he helped win a division title in 2007. Then, of course, Tom Brady comes. But more importantly, Baker Mayfield is here. And as long as Baker Mayfield is here, Matt, the Super Bowl window is open in Tampa. And really, that's the topic for today's show that we're going to get into in just a minute.
I mean, a lot of it in the NFL is if you have your quarterback, you have a chance. And it definitely feels like they have their – actually, I shouldn't say it feels like. They definitely have their quarterback with Baker Mayfield. And again, happy birthday to Baker, 30 years old. And just it feels like with Baker, like you mentioned Brad Johnson, who had traveled a lot of different places before, coming to the Buccaneers and really figuring it out. And we all know the story with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
But it feels like the Bucs finally have their, even though he wasn't drafted by them, their franchise quarterback that is going to be here for maybe a decade.
Yeah.
He only just had a second season. He's got 2 more years left on his current contract. But if he plays anything this upcoming season like he did last year, he's probably going to get another contract extension. Yeah. And, you never know what will happen with like injuries or players improving, players on the decline, things like that, and things of that nature. But the way Baker has embraced the city, the way the city has embraced Baker Mayfield, I mean, he's helping out charities left and right.
Yep.
He said he's been on the record at press conferences being like, I want my family to, establish our residence here, our home here, even when we're not, in football season. And so to have a guy, and I think it's part of his personality too, right? We know how he was humbled going from the Browns to everything that happened with Carolina and the Rams and now the Bucs. But the good parts of the intensity of Baker, I think, has really been what the fans have loved the most.
Yeah.
The wearing the heart on his sleeve, the fighting for every single inch to get a first down, to get a score, to do all of these big things for the Bucs, to find the success of that this team has had, to continue to get better and better each season, for the team to win even more each season. The way that he's become a team captain and everybody in the locker room loves him and would do everything for him.
Yeah.
It feels like for the first time, because some of these other guys, successful, they were hired guns. With Baker, it feels like they have a guy that's going to be here for a decade long. I mean, if he's playing till he's 40, that's pretty awesome. I mean, I know it's kind of difficult to do.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of people that could have come out from the shadow of Tom Brady, and hot damn, Baker Mayfield found a way to do it.
I know. Well said. And the thing too with Baker is he's one of those guys that just ignites the fan base too. Right. Yes. I mean, there's been a lot of great players here in Tampa. And it's not that Tom Brady ignited the fan base just with his gravitas, right? Just because he's Tom Brady, he's an icon. And obviously winning a Super Bowl helps. But let's remember, in 2020, the stands weren't full. They were empty because of COVID.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like this fan base really had like that huge personal love affair with Baker Mayfield. And you've mentioned it too, Matt, and you're exactly right. Tom Brady wasn't out and about in town. He would get mobbed, right? It would be it would be all over social media. Hey, Tom Brady's at Salt Shack, grabbing a mahi taco, and the whole Tampa Bay area would descend upon that place. So he was a little bit of a stranger in a strange land here, and part of it was due to COVID too. Nobody was out and about for a minute. But with Baker Mayfield, you see him around town. He's at the charity events. He has his own charities. He's a man about town, and he loves this town. And you can feel the crowd come to life at Raymond James Stadium. Literally bring the fan base to their feet with some of those scrambles, some of those hero plays, etc. And as I told Baker Mayfield last year, I'm like, I've covered a lot of good quarterbacks here in Tampa. You're the most fun to watch. And I think that's the cool thing about him is he is that Mike Allstott, that Bucky Irving, that Warren Sapp, that Simeon Rice, that guy, that Rondé Barber that's just fun to watch and root for and just brings the stands alive at Ray J.
And the way that he fought through adversity, I mean, I think it's different with Tom Brady because they got so successful and therefore everyone hated the Patriots and there's people that didn't like Tom for whatever reason. But remember why Brady was likable in the beginning? Because he was a 6th round draft pick that had no shot of making it and then made them to say he made the most of his opportunity once Drew Bledsoe got injured would be an understatement. He became the greatest quarterback of all time. But I think there's a lot to be said with how Baker got through his adversity. I mean, he was the number one, and sure, he was a walk-on and then became what he was at Oklahoma, Heisman Trophy winner and everything like that. But to go through the adversity of being the number one pick, like everyone telling you you're amazing, and it didn't work out right away. And then the Browns said, we don't want you anymore. We'd rather have Deshaun Watson, which now it's like, are you kidding me? That's insane. But then for the Panthers to be like, thanks, but you're not working out. And the Rams to be like, all right, we'll give you a chance in December when the season's over, only because everybody else around us is injured. It's just insane the adversity that he got through, and then now what he's done with the Bucs in 2 years. I think a lot of people appreciate that and they respect that. It's it's a little bit of the Hollywood movie script that you're getting with Baker Mayfield right now, and hopefully it continues because it is a lot of fun and it does make people want to get up out of their seats and yell and scream for Baker in all the right ways. And you get some Oklahoma fans too.
That's right. As Tyler Lovell, one of our Pewter Report TV channel members, says, best underdog redemption arc. Yeah. That's true. You went from being the face of a franchise to a journeyman quarterback literally in one calendar year, going to 4 different teams. So let's dive into today's topic here in just a second. But it is a Monday, and I would be remiss if I didn't let you all know that the best happy hour is at Walk-Ons on Mondays. That's right. From 3 p.m. to close. So if you're looking for a place to grab a bite to eat tonight, 3 p.m. to close and 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Those are the happy hours on Mondays and Fridays. Wednesdays and Thursdays are great because you have 2 happy hours to make, from 3 to 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. to close. Tuesday, all day happy hour, plus $5 Tito's. It's the best day to enjoy happy hour at Walk-Ons. And you can also dive into some $3.99 domestic pints, $5 premium house pours or happy hour wines, $5.49 22-ounce domestic drafts, $4 hush puppies. Those are new on the menu, or onion rings, $7 boom boom shrimp, half waffle cheese fries, or spinach artichoke dip, which is the best. I just had some there the other night with Ashley. We were watching the Masters. What a great place to watch sports too, with all those TVs. Or $8 gets you the boneless wings and cheeseburger sliders. And they've got a cool special event happening at all 3 locations. This is a Jack Daniel's Spirited Dinner. That's right. You can reserve your seat for May 21st at 6:30 and enjoy expertly crafted pairings featuring Jack Daniel's finest selections. To secure your reservation for the Midtown Tampa, the Wesley Chapel, or the Lakeland location, you can do so by calling 813-771-7100. That's 813-771-7100, or emailing mid-mkt, that's mid-marketing, walkingtallbrands.com. That's mid-mkt at walkingtallbrands.com. That sounds like a fun time.
Yes, it absolutely does. Make sure you set up those reservations and enjoy a great time over at Walk-Ons.
Yep. All right, let's dive into today's topic, Matt. When you look at the Buccaneers and their window that is open for the Super Bowl, well, it's not just open for 2025, Matthew. It's open for 2026 as well. Let's take a look. Whoa, look at all those people. 43 players under contract for next year. Those players in Pewter, they're your starters. We're not going to go through every single name here, but we'll go through the starters. These are players under contract, not just for 2025, also 2026. Mike Evans, and I should note, Mike Evans has a voidable year. So he's listed here, but it's really a void year. So he's not technically on the roster. That's my mistake. Baker Mayfield, Vita Vea, Chris Godwin, Tristan Wirfs, Antoine Winfield Jr., Kalijah Cansey, Chase McLaughlin, Graham Barton, Ben Bredesen, Cody Mauch, Yaya Diaby, Tyke Smith, Jalen McMillan, Bucky Irving, and Servassier Dennis. That's a lot of names right there. Matter of fact, there's not even 43 on this list because I couldn't get them all on the graphic. There's about 3 or 4 more guys. And keep in mind, too, some of these guys, right, there's 2 punters. There's Riley Dixon and there's Jake Julian. One of those guys will be the starter. One of them probably won't be here. Some of these players won't necessarily be here, not even in 2025, but 2026. But these are the players under contract through 2026. That's a lot of names. But look how quickly it falls off. In 2027, only 11 players are under contract with the Buccaneers. Chris Godwin, Tristan Wirfs, Antoine Winfield Jr., Graham Barton, Ben Bredesen, Tyke Smith, Jalen McMillan, Bucky Irving. Those are the starters and just 3 backups. So now there's going to be a lot of players getting re-signed in the next year or two, right? Including, as we mentioned earlier, Matt, having guys like Luke Gedeke, Tristan Wirfs, Simon McCollum, those are players that might get contract extensions this offseason. And that if Mike Evans still plays at a high level this year, he's going to get a contract. Then you look at Baker Mayfield, as you mentioned earlier, he could get a contract extension maybe as early as next year, even before his deal is up. So Jason Light, Mike Greenberg, Jackie Davis, they're going to be busy over the next couple of years with a bunch of these re-signings, and you're going to start to see a lot of those names get stockpiled into 2027 with contract extensions, not to mention the rookie class that's going to come in and add to that list as well. It'll go from 11 names to 6 more rookies to 17 pretty quickly. But it does go to show you how fragile the Super Bowl window can be. And if you don't have a quarterback, as you said so wisely, Matt, you don't have a playoff chance really. And that's what Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield give this team, some weapons to fuel this offense and get them to the Super Bowl as long as they're under contract.
Yeah, the quarterback is the big question and answer for every single team. But then also you have to take advantage when you are in that situation. I think the San Francisco 49ers are a great example of a team you think they'd be good for, 6-7 years, but it seems like their window's certainly closing based on the injuries that happened to them last year and, trading Deebo Samuel this offseason. To me, it's not even necessarily who's under contract and who's not under contract, just because I just have so much trust and faith in Jason Light and Mike Greenberg and Jackie Davidson that anybody who is going to get a contract extension is going to be well deserving of it. And I do think Luke Gedeke is the first piece to that puzzle. But we also have to remember, the Bucs are going to have that offensive line intact for quite a while if they do get that extension with Gedeke because of everybody else still involved. They're in a great spot because of Bucky Irving and Jalen McMillan and certainly Graham Barton, their first-round pick. To me, the biggest thing for the Bucs of keeping their Super Bowl window open, I do think it's at least for 2 years now, but keeping it open for even longer than that, is when does, and I'm not saying it's happening this year, but when does the other shoe drop for some of their biggest primetime players, like Mike Evans?
Yeah.
When does he start to slow down? I'm not 100% sure. Because we're going into this year, Mike, still the man. It did take him the last game to get 1,000 yards, but let's also remember that he did miss a couple of games. But will those injuries continue to pile up as he gets older and continues to play? I hope the answer is no. I'm just trying to be a realist here and look at every single situation. Chris Godwin coming back from that injury. What about Vita Vea? Is he still going to be at the highest level of playing? I know you got Kalijah Kancey in there, but I think a lot of times you need both of them to really get the full effect of this defense. So to me, it's guys like Mike, like Vita. How do they figure out the cornerback situation, which we could get an answer by the end of next weekend based on what they do in the draft. To me, it's more of how much are their prime players still in their prime or close to it. Because Mike, if he replicates what he did last season, well, the Bucs are in a way, way better spot. And I would think Mike's still going to keep playing. He's not just going to hang it up. Like if we were looking at a race right now between Levante David and Mike Evans, Levante is much closer to the finish line than Mike is, despite there not being too much of an age difference. I think Chris Godwin's a little bit of what are you going to get from him? But to me, it's more of the prime players staying at a high level with their performances than it necessarily is anything with with contracts or who's going to be back and things of that nature.
I agree. And I think the other gray area is which players are going to ascend to that great level. The players that you mentioned right now, Mike Evans, Vita Vea, Chris Godwin, Levante David, they're like on this upper echelon plane.
Yeah.
And we can put Tristan Wirfs in there too, although he's not that old, right? But he's but he's there, right? Yeah. And we think Luke Gedeke is really kind of on the cusp of being at that level, not on Tristan's level, but on that level of like great Buccaneer players.
Yeah.
But then there's a gap between that group and the next group, the Kalijah Kansis, the Yaya Diabis, the Bucky Irvings. And I say that because let's see if he does it again, right?
Right. 1 year, fantastic, but you need to do it for more than 1 year to be on that next level.
Exactly. And Graham Barton, we expect him to, rise up, but how long will that process take? Cody Mauch is kind of in that group right now. Will he ascend to the Gedeke group this year and become truly a great, type of Buccaneer player? It's going to take some reinforcements. Those players that are already on the roster in the second and third year, or even fourth year, Zion McCollum, looking at you, to ascend and really join that next group, that upper echelon group of Buccaneers, because every year that goes on, it is going to be a less effective Levante David, Mike Evans, Vita Vea, et cetera, right? And I'm not saying that's going to happen this year, but it might happen in 2026. It might happen in 2027 if these players still are under contract. So you have to, there has to be that elevation where these players have got to level up from being good to full-on great. And I think if they can flood that great level, then you really have a Super Bowl contender. Then you have a team that really is Super Bowl, maybe not just a contender, maybe a Super Bowl favorite in 2026, maybe even 2025 if those players really attack this offseason with a vengeance and really improve their games. But I think you're looking at a handful of guys right now in that upper echelon level. And as you said, Matt, a lot of these guys are 30, over 30, et cetera. It's going to take that good group becoming great to really take this team to the Super Bowl. And then the more players you have at that great level, the longer that Super Bowl window is open, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because then again, Bucky Irving's a fantastic example of if he immediately gets to that great level after 2 years, well, you have him for another 2 seasons. And who knows, when it's all said and done by the end of next year, we could be saying that Bucky Irving's a top 5 running back in the league and not just a, top 5 running back in Buccaneers history or whatever the case may be. Yep. I do think it's very intriguing for a couple of guys in that good category. If they do get great, you mentioned Zion McCollum. I think Cody Mauch is a very intriguing case. He definitely took steps. If he take another step, I think Yaya is another one too, because if Yaya, and we love him, he's been on the show 3 times.
Friend of the program.
Great friend of the program.
Yeah.
But right now I view, and I think a lot of us do, we view Yaya, and I love what he had to say about being a leader and holding others accountable, and that's great. But we view Yaya as probably better off as like a number 2 outside linebacker.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, that second string. If he's going to maintain that, that's okay. I mean, that's not like there are way worse situations. It's not like a JTS situation. But then the Bucs are still kind of searching for that number 1 edge rusher. And again, who knows? Maybe they get Donovan Ezeraku in the first round next Thursday.
Or maybe Yaya steps up and becomes that guy.
Well, right. But if Yaya steps up and becomes that guy, then that's perfect for this team. So I think there's a couple of examples of like that where they're in a good spot. Like I think they're a playoff contender for the next 4 years, regardless of what happens with Mike and Chris and things of that nature.
Yeah, there's a good enough roster where that happens. I agree.
Yeah, but Super Bowl, I can't say that just yet. Now they could prove it, this upcoming season with the first 2 months of the year to show that they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Yeah, it's just tough with a lot of things kind of floating in the balance at the moment.
Yeah, you go back to the original Super Bowl, and there's a constant reminder in the Bucs lobby. If you guys have been to the lobby over at One Buccaneer Place, I mean, there's a statue of John Gruden, along with Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, John Lynch, Rondé Barber, Simeon Rice, Mike Allstott, Brad Johnson, and Shelton Quarles. That's 8 players that made the Pro Bowl from that Super Bowl team, they were on that level. And that's not including Super Bowl MVP Dexter Jackson, the safety, who had 2 interceptions in the game, or Dwight Smith, who had 2 pick sixes in the game, right? Or Martin Gramatica, who, had a great season that year, or guys like Greg Spires, who played opposite Simeon Rice in that defensive line, or Brian Kelly, who was a stalwart corner for this team, or Roman Oben, who was a huge upgrade at left tackle, right? Or Keenan McCardell or Keyshawn Johnson or Joe Juravicius. There was a good wide receiving core that year. You got to have a lot of really good players. Look at the Eagles last year, for example, that they just had talent across the board, offense and defense, offensive line, defensive line, skill position, secondary, right? And some of that's from the draft, some of that's through free agency. Got to have the quarterback, right? And that's what we're talking about. This team has got to have those good players earn those second contracts and join the greatness, that great level. And then they're going to have to do so. Maybe they're going to have to continue, Matt, I think, with Baker Mayfield and Chris Godwin and Mike Evans have done, which is take maybe less than market value, right? Leave some money on the table and want to be Buccaneers and be with this franchise. And as long as they get that, and I'm not faulting Antoine Winfield Jr., the Buccaneers made him the highest paid defensive back in football. You take that contract if it's offered, but if you take on that approach that kind of Tom Brady kind of shepherded here as well when he took $25 million to come play, and he probably could have got more elsewhere. He's Tom Brady. But when you do that, it leaves bigger slices of the pie for other players to get those deals. Because as we've seen, you want to re-sign all your guys, but the pie's only so big. And sometimes you have to shed some guys. That's why Jordan Whitehead wasn't re-signed after the Super Bowl. He was kind of the odd man out because they just had all those other players to re-sign, and they couldn't find him enough or a big enough piece of the pie to satisfy him.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking who could be one of those, guys that won't be re-signed just because you can't re-sign everybody. Like, between Otten and Gedeke and Zion McCollum, and I mean, you're not going to let a starting offensive tackle walk like that. It's hard to find those and replicate those. It's interesting. It's tricky with the taking less money and things of that nature, because Brady, I think it's different as well, because one, quarterbacks already make a ton of money as it is. So even like him taking less money is still pretty good. And also Brady's in his own category, his own, he's getting sponsorships
deals,
out the wazoo and all these
to Giselle, for Christ's sake,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
She made more than he did.
Yeah. So it's tough to look at, and we love football, but some of the dangers of football and your overall health and the window you have to play football and make that money. It's been amazing that Mike and Chris are like, we want to do whatever we can to win, but I don't fault other guys for being like, I'm going to make the most money I possibly can because I'm great right now. And if I don't get paid right now, then I may never will. And, if I'm Antoine Winfield Jr. and he already got his payday, it's like, all right, well, I just balled out. I deserve this money.
Sure.
So I'm going to get this money, because if I didn't have a good season, you guys would be like, hey, thanks for playing here, but we're going to let you go test the market. So, like, I don't know. It kind of works both ways. I don't necessarily think anybody's selfish for not taking the money, but I think also you can look at the same time. Like, we always talk about Baker getting that big contract, and he's still the third highest paid quarterback in the division. $100 million, $100 million. Like, I think you're going to be good regardless, whether it's $125 million or just $100 million. So I don't know. Everyone's kind of in their own situation, but it makes it such a juggling act when it comes to finding the right players to bring in, and that's why the Bucs and Jason Light have that Levante David model of those type of guys come in, they want to win, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to win as well.
When you look at Cody Mauch, and I love Cody, and I hope he gets re-signed because a friend of the program. he's a good player, really ascending. I think he's going to build on last year, and really, I think he's got Pro Bowl potential. I think he's that good of a guard. But if you look back at what happened with Alex Kappa from that Super Bowl year, right? Guard is a position that's just not as valuable at center, is not as valuable as tackle. right? And you do have Graham Barton on a 5th-year option, so you kind of get that extra year of the rookie deal, although the 5th-year option is going to be a sizable pay increase for Graham Barton when that time comes. But that might be the position where, you only have so many guys that you can re-sign for top dollar. And you look at that draft class, Diaby's in that, Kalijah Cansey's in that, right? So those are more premium positions, edge rusher, defensive tackle, then guard. So I'm not writing up Cody Mauch. I'm just saying that is a position when you look back at what the contract Alex Kappa got from the Cincinnati Bengals after winning the Super Bowl. That was a sizable deal. The Buccaneers really had plans on not re-signing him because they knew that he was going to cash in on a big-time deal. And, Ben Bredesen's going to be a player, too, that I think if you had to look at it and say, which one are you going to invest in, Ben Bredesen or Cody Mauch, after the 2026 when Mauch would become a free agent, you're going to want to keep Cody Mauch and probably say goodbye to Ben Bredesen at that time and promote Elijah Klein or another guard and just kind of shift the money from, hey, Ben, we loved you, but we like Cody better because he's a better younger player and he's one of our core offensive linemen. You can pretty much afford to pay 3, sometimes 4, depending on your salary cap and those contracts, but you're not going to be able to pay 5 offensive linemen top dollar across the board, right? So it's going to be a little bit of a juggling act on the offensive line. We'll see how it shakes out. But that Super Bowl window, it's open really legit 2025, 2026, 2027. We'll see. The Buccaneers have got a lot of contracts to re-sign. And I think the key will be how many players level up from good to great and are really worth big money contracts. And then how many of those players leveled up, how many can they afford under the salary cap? And how many will follow that Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Baker Mayfield model of, I don't have to be the highest paid player at my position. I want a reasonable deal to help my team continue to build and hopefully defend a Super Bowl title, Matt. Not just get there, but hopefully by then defend one.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys can make history too, right? This is what we chatted about with Chris Godwin when he re-signed, being one of the first players to win 2 Super Bowls with the Bucs. It'd be the 3rd in franchise history, but 2 with, this core of Mike and Chris and Vita and Levante and, the list goes on and on and on. Yeah. That's a special thing that not many people in the entirety of the NFL can say, unless you played for the Patriots like back in the day and you're winning left and right. But that's really, really difficult to do. So I think there's that type of, dangling carrot, if you will, for some of these guys to go and re-sign and try to, be a winner again on this team. And then I also think, part of the benefit of Tom Brady is other people came in and want to play with Brady because they thought they had a chance to go and win a Super Bowl.
Right.
You can do that by being a successful team, hopefully contending for a Super Bowl. And then some of those, I don't want to say aging free agents, but some of those free agents that prioritize winning over personal accolades, or maybe they already had the personal accolades, now they just want to win. They'll prioritize Tampa more than some other places if they can see that they are a consistent winner, and they're on their way. So yeah, I think the window is for sure 2 years, and then it's like a contract where it's like a 2-year deal and a 3rd year team option. I think there's a team option right now for that 3rd year, depending on how they look over these next 2 seasons.
That's right. And Baker Mayfield, the birthday boy, we'll kind of put the period on this sentence by saying he's a magnet, right? People want to play with Baker Mayfield. He's taken the league by storm. This is not just a 1-year wonder. He's done it now 2 years. He was better last year than he was even in his career resuscitation season in 2023. So we'll see what the future holds for Baker Mayfield. We also want to take this time, as we do in each show, to thank our Pewter Platinum members, Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Eric McMillan, Connor For Reals, Zach Jarvis, Kevin Thomas, and Mario Thomas. We greatly appreciate everybody who is a Pewter Platinum member. We appreciate all of our Pewter Report TV channel members. And if you want to consider becoming a Pewter Report TV channel member, that's the best way you can show your support for our efforts here at Pewter Report. to become a channel member. And these are the membership options. You can hit the join button on the front page of Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel, to actually become a member. We have memberships starting at $3.99, $6.99, $9.99, and $24.99 a month with the different membership level perks that you can see right there. Those are also on Pewter Report TV. When you hit the join button, these will also pop up as well. So please consider supporting our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel by becoming a channel member. And if you'd like to get more business for your business, well, you can do so by advertising with Pewter Report, whether it's our Pewter Report podcast, whether it's our social media channels, which are well over 100,000 combined, or our pewterreport.com high traffic website. You can email me at sr@pewterreport.com for sponsorship opportunities. We'd love to have you join the ranks of our Pewter Report businesses that partner up with us, and we're going to do our best to give you more customers.
Also, want to give a shout out to some people during roll call today. We had another great turnout.
Yes.
So Montana 605, watching from Plant City, Florida.
There you go.
Pretty infamous town on this show for longtime listeners. Kieran Butt from Norfolk in the United Kingdom. Love our international fans. Joseph out in Southern California. J. Andrew 90, Galveston, Texas. Can't wait until I can see my Bucs this season when they come to Houston. Of course, Galveston is the hometown of Mike Evans and Zion McCollum. John Boobin from, I believe this is Butte, Montana. Yep. We have another from the UK, Peter Marlowe, Chippenham in the United Kingdom. So that's cool. Love the show, guys. Thanks for that. Jeff the Champion, Pewter Report YouTube channel member from New Bern, North Carolina. Derek Pilger from Dumaguete in the Philippines. Awesome to see someone watching from all the way out there.
Even found some Celsius out there too, which was cool.
Even found some Celsius. Angel Sanchez, not a location, but says today is my son's birthday and he's turning 6.
Happy birthday.
Matching Baker. Happy birthday to your son, Angel. Very cool. Don Hayes, Burton. I'm guessing that's Mississippi.
Yep.
Mississippi. And last but not least, Robert Stewart, Victorville, California. So a couple of Californians watching the show today. We appreciate everybody's support. Another great turnout for roll call.
No doubt. And one thing I'd love for you all to do, if you can, is if you have insurance, which you should, especially in the state of Florida, whether it be for homeowners or auto insurance, do me a favor. Call Briar Greaves Insurance and get a second opinion. Have them do the legwork for you. They're going to give you the best quote for homeowners and for auto owners policies. They also offer flood insurance. If you live in a flood zone, that's super important because homeowners insurance, if you probably found out the hard way, during these last 2 hurricanes that rolled through the Tampa Bay area last fall, you have to have flood insurance if you're in a flood zone. Homeowners insurance will not help you if you have flooding. It's a separate policy. And Briar Greaves Insurance will help work you through the whole process and educate you about that. If you have a boat, they can also help you there. If you have an RV, if you've got an antique vehicle, any type of vehicle, Briar Greaves Insurance is the place to turn. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. Work with an independent agency that you can trust. So my charge to you is log on to briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. You're going to get a live person on the phone, and probably one of the Greaves family members because it's a family-owned business here in the Tampa Bay area. But they can help you all across the state. So give them a call and say, hey, Scott Reynolds from Pewter Report wanted me to call you, and they believe that you can help me get my homeowner's insurance for a better premium cost or my auto owner's insurance at a lower cost as well. And Briar Greaves Insurance will do the legwork. They've got network where they can go through all of the different insurance companies in the state and get you and your family the best possible price, the best value. So it's a great way you can save money just with one phone call. Give them a call at 813-876-4166 or visit them on the web at briargreavesinsurance.com. That's Briar, B-R-I-E-R, Greaves, G-R-I-E-V-E-S, insurance.com.
I think one last thing when we talk about this Super Bowl window as well for the Bucs. We spent a lot of time talking about Baker, of course, because it's his birthday, and Mike and things like that.
Yeah.
But their defense needs to get back on track, too.
It does.
I think that's a big factor in all of this. It cannot look like the defense that it did last year. Now, certainly they have taken the steps. They're moving Tyke Smith to safety, strong safety. They put Hassan Reddick on the roster now, presumably to get the four-man pass rush going a little bit better. Hopefully a healthier Servassier Dennis. A lot of these top 30 visits have been on the defensive side as well. That is another gigantic aspect of this, is to reshape that defense. I think they can. I still trust Todd Bowles in that area. I'm not going to let one down season on the defensive side dictate that, this team can't go anywhere because of it. But certainly a lot of self-scouting went on this offseason, and I do believe that they will be for the better this upcoming season.
I agree. And we're going to find out in just over a week. If you've seen pewterreport.com, we've got our position previews that started on Saturday with the quarterback position. They're not going to draft a quarterback, but quarterback, running back, tight end are up. We have wide receiver tomorrow. So make sure you check out pewterreport.com tomorrow for Matt's wide receiver preview. And then we'll continue with a different position group every single day, all the way until the draft, which is April 24th, 25th, and 26th. We'll have our live draft show from the team facility. That's Pewter Reports TV, our YouTube channel. You can watch it. You can watch it on pewterreport.com. You can watch it on our Facebook or X accounts at Pewter Report. So lots of different ways. It'll be streamed all over the web. You can check that out. We encourage you to do so. And next Monday night, we're going to have our final mock draft show, and that will be presented by Walk-Ons. Josh Capo and I will be on 8:30 to tackle your questions, read your comments, all the good stuff, because our last mock draft drops at 5 p.m. on pewterreport.com next Monday as well. Tomorrow's show, we're going to be predicting the NFC South first-round draft picks for Tampa Bay, for Carolina, for New Orleans, and even for Atlanta. And then on Wednesday, we'll be talking about the Bucs' upcoming safety dance. That's right, with Tyke Smith possibly going to the strong safety spot. We'll look at the current depth chart at the safety position, which really underwhelmed last year, Matt. I mean, Antoine Winfield Jr. had a season to forget. Jordan White is not even here. And then how that nickel cornerback position will be impacted as well. We'll take a look at the depth chart at those two spots. They're going to be putting some resources into those positions in the draft.
Yeah, a lot of questions that they will try to answer, and we'll try to answer them too. So make sure you tune in for all those upcoming shows that are happening this week and early next week. And in the meantime, if you're not already doing so, please follow us on all of our social media, on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video as well. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Happy birthday, Baker Mayfield, one last time. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everybody, for watching, and we will see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.